everybody. Welcome to the live. I'm about to send Ben the invite really quick. And then we'll be good to go. Where's that? Alright, and now we wait. Oh, jeez.
Oh, okay. Yeah, all right. Hello, what's going on, broski?
Here. Oh, Franklin in here. Let's go.
Yeah, oh, Lean Valentine, let's go.
Yes, sir.
I'm outside, as you can see, and there are a lot of bees just, frolicking about. So if I hop up, it's because I'm about to go into anaphylaxis.
Oh, I'm about to see this.
Now, it's mostly me just, flinching at these. There's so many, bro. I chose, the worst spot.
Yeah.
All right, how are you doing today?
The freaking carpenter bees that are mad diesel? Or is it?
Yeah, they're the thick boys, so I don't even think they have stingers, but they're still, intimidating.
Super facts. Looking like a mini blimp.
Young Zachary on the beat.
Yes, sir.
Young Louis Haydu Nemeth. Hello, everyone. All right, so what are we talking about today?
All right. So obviously it's almost summertime, and I feel like the big question on everybody's mind is, did I wait too long to start getting shredded? So obviously the cop-out answer is it depends, but I definitely wanted your opinions on everything, and just your thoughts about getting right for summer in general.
I would say freaking Lean Valentine. I would say that for most people it probably is a little late, to get started with cutting. But that doesn't mean that you can't look your best on the beach, I feel like not everybody needs to be out here shredded up, six-pack abs on the beach. So it's never too late to get your body right. And if you start now, you can always look good by next summer. You feel me? Just get started early, and then you won't have to diet down as far. If you start dieting down now, and then maybe go through a little bulking phase or maintenance phase, then once you diet down around next March, you should be ready for summer in time.
Word. And I also think, obviously it kind of depends on how lean you are. If you have, mad weight to lose, and also depending on, how lean you're trying to get, then what is it, 6-ish weeks until summer? You're probably, depending on how much you want to suffer, you're probably only going to lose 6 to 12 pounds. So
yeah, word. And it's I don't know, I feel like it's just unhealthy to think about it in terms of I want to look right for the summer, because it's probably not going to last that long, especially if your summer is hot boy summer, I'm about to go out, drink, bag some girls. It's bro, if you're going out and you're drinking and, you're living your best life over the summer, then all the work that you just put in is probably going to be gone by the end of summer anyway. Yeah. So you might as well just get your life right, and then you'll be looking good every summer. You feel me?
Exactly. Not everybody can look like freaking lifting Los year round.
Word, unfortunately. Word. Not unless I get some pharmaceutical enhancements.
Hello. Well.
Yeah.
Let me see what else. So, realistically, if you had a client say that they wanted to look right for summer, what time frame? Obviously, depending on how much you have to lose, but what time frame do you think would be realistic for them?
I don't know. It would be hard. It definitely depends on where they're at. But I would say basically you need enough time for a diet phase, and then 1 to 2, diet breaks. You feel me? Because especially if you're heavier, if you're general population, then you're definitely gonna hit a plateau at some point. So it's best to break through the plateaus by exercising first, and then adding the diet in after, and slowly tweaking your diet. But there's only so much you can exercise, and so low your calories can go. So after a certain point, even if you can power through it, it's going to be in your best interest for your mental health to just take a little breaky poo.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're gonna be freaking lean, roid raging out because you haven't had any food in like weeks. So I would say like the best idea is probably to start by March, right? Third month of June is the which month? Sixth.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say 3 months is a good idea, but like even 5 months would be not a terrible idea, depending on how much you have to lose.
Yeah.
And then also, if you want to like, if you just have an event, then it doesn't matter. Like you could use a month and then just like go ham. But like, what is the reason for the diet, right, and the exercise? If you want like lasting results, then you should take a little bit of time with it, because the affirmation like rebound. Look up anybody that like is a winner of The Biggest Loser. Like they're all like 600-pound life again. So
Yeah, exactly. And I like the point of like diet breaks that you brought up, because I feel like, especially in the past, like in college, when I would try to basically just use the semester to get shredded, it would basically just be like 3 straight months of me just like constantly in a deficit. Not necessarily always feeling like garbage, because you can have like lower calorie or low calorie dense foods to help keep you like satiated. But like looking back, I'm like, wow, if I like hit a plateau, instead of me just trying to lose the rest of the water weight, I should have taken like a diet break and then like reassessed and came back to it. I feel like not enough people do that.
yeah. I feel like there's also like temperament as well, like somebody's personality, because some people just rather like sprint to the finish line and they don't want to wait. So if that's the case, then yeah, I think sprinting, getting to where you want to be, and then letting yourself balloon up a little bit, just like letting go of the reins, and then starting up again. Like you kind of have to like trick the client into doing that, because they're not going to do it on their own. If you say diet break, they're going to be like, whoa, but I want, I'm going to speak for myself, right? Because as a trainer, I see things that annoy me with clients, but then I was your client for a little bit and you saw me do client type activities, right? Like not reporting exercises or being like, okay, I know I have 3 back offs, but I hit that weight on the way up, so I'm going to skip my second back off set, But as a dieting client, last year when I had a dietitian, I just wanted to sprint to the goal. And that's pretty much what happened. And when the guy was like, okay, I want you to like take a break now, I was like, why? We're so close. Gold is right there. The finish line is right there. So it's really, I think, on us as coaches to approach our client in the way that they need to be approached. Because if not, they're just going to, go to the next guy who's on Instagram using incorrect terminology and incorrect anatomy and physiology. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's also a really good point. You kind of touched on this before, like the whole idea of like maintenance. A lot of people just think that, okay, I'm going to lose whatever 20 pounds and then like I'm done. But in reality, it's not like that. Like this happened to me the last couple of years. The first time around, I lost like, what was it? I was at 236. I went all the way down to 185. Then I went back up to 203. And I was like, freak, dude, like that's 20 pounds. Like I should have just stayed at whatever, 185. Then I went all the way back down to 181. And now I'm like 215-ish. So mad like roller coaster. So like this time around for my diet, I'm taking it like a billion times slower, because I don't want to just like suffer and then balloon and then suffer and then balloon like year after year. So I think, like you're saying, like take like a really small deficit to the point where like you don't feel like you're suffering, taking the diet breaks or whatever, and just giving yourself like that freedom to take things nice and slow. I feel like that's a way smarter approach.
Yeah, for sure. And it's going to feel better mentally, I would think, unless you're really suffering that much from not getting to the ideal weight. But like if you really want to walk around with a certain aesthetic and a certain look, then you're gonna have to walk the walk, and that includes diet breaks, right? Because nobody's gonna be perfect. Like, what do you think when you're going on vacation? You're gonna be eating fucking salads? Like, no, you're going to take an unofficial diet break, so you can go enjoy your time with whoever you're with, right?
Yeah.
So it's like you need to live that life and recognize that you're gonna have to take 1 step back to take 2 steps forward sometimes.
Yeah. And I think having that balance is key, because definitely like when I'm in vacation mode, I'm in vacation mode. Like I went to the Dominican Republic around like December, and it's like a 5-star resort. So like everything is provided for you. Like the room service is 24/7, alcohol is 24/7. So I was like, yes, give me more. And then when I came back and I stepped on the scale, I was like, oh, I gained mad wait, I probably should have practiced moderation so I didn't have to now lose this weight that I put on.
Yeah, that's definitely facts. It sounds weird, but it sounds like a forbidden fruit or like a guilty pleasure. Like you're away and you're like, oh, I shouldn't be eating this, right? And then that just feeds into like a bunch of other things like binge eating disorder and whatnot. Yeah. It's just not healthy. If you walk around all the time and you have a diet that suits your lifestyle where you're like, okay, you know, I went over my calories today, it's not a big deal, right? Or I can take this phase and go over my calories, it's not a big deal. Giving yourself that little like break is definitely necessary to keep your mental health on point and your body on point as well.
Yo, lifting Los in the building. Let's freaking
go. Yo, he heard you. We were just talking about the things, bro.
Yo, we were just like, yeah, not everybody can be as jacked as lifting Los year round.
Where the vascularity is insane.
Exactly, but my freaking delts are getting there. Almost. Not even close.
I'm not even gonna try. I have to like out angle. I have to like put my shit in the camera to even, you know.
I know. Yo, I would have to be like freaking like up here on the camera, and you'd have to be standing all the way in the back for it to be the same.
Bro, I have to glue pumpkins to my shoulders in order to even look comparable to my man's.
Exactly. Exactly.
All right. Any more on this topic, or are we ready to move
on? I feel like we can probably move on to the next topic. The other stuff I wanted to talk to you about was a little more general. So like. Recently there was a video with Jeff Nippard and Lane Norton, and they were talking about like overrated and underrated stuff like for fitness. So I guess the first thing I wanted to talk about was training splits. In my personal opinion, at the end of the day, like if you enjoy training a certain way, I say stick with it, because ultimately like you're actually going to show up to the gym versus like there's other people that do the paralysis by analysis where it's like, oh, my split isn't optimal and I'm not hitting each freaking muscle group 2 to 3 times a week, so I'm just wasting my time. So I was wondering, like, in your experience, like, what do you think about like training splits and what's over and underrated?
I would say, I mean, the old me would say that like bro splits are overrated, where it's like, you know, chest Monday, back Tuesday, right? Basically hitting each muscle group once per week. But now I feel like there's some nuance in that. If you are somebody that, you know, basically echoing what you said, if something works for you, then you need to stick with it, right? If you are somebody who does a bro split and you're seeing gains and you're getting the results that you want, then why would you change it up to like a push-pull legs, right? It's like, none of it makes sense, because some people get beefy off of bro splits, hitting it once a week, right? Some people will get beefy with like half repping. Everybody knows that guy in the gym who's like hitting bench like this, right? This is the range of motion, but his freaking chest is huge and he's jacked. So like people defy logic. I would say just go, whatever makes you get to the gym on a regular basis, that's what you should stick with.
Yeah, and I also think it's dependent on like your training age. So when I first started lifting, and the only access I had to a weight room was the weight room after school at Franklin. Obviously, I had to do like a push-pull leg split. But then once I got my own gym membership, or I was like in college for like the first little bit, I was a huge fan of the bro split, because I was like, yo, I could just crush my arms today. Like, this is so dope. But then as I started to like mature and like develop or whatever, and I started lifting longer and longer, I was like, oh, I'm getting more results trying these different splits. So like when I did powerlifting, my legs blew up because I was squatting and deadlifting twice a week. So like in my personal opinion, the goated, like the best ever split is legs and back, and chest, shoulders, and arms, because I still feel like I can get that crazy pump that I got from the bro split, but also still getting the more accumulated volume of like a full body or like a powerlifting split kind of thing. So those are just like my favorites that I've thought about over time.
Yeah, and it also like depends on the goal, I guess, because if it's just strictly hypertrophy, yeah, you can go for a bro split. Like no matter what, like what the science says is like as long as you equate volume, like you're gonna gain the same amount of muscle. But if it's a powerlifting split, then you kind of need to approach things differently. Like you can't hit a bro powerlifting split. It doesn't exist, you know. So yeah, it depends on what the goal is and if you are participating in any kind of sport, because powerlifting is a sport, so you have to lift very specifically to excel in that sport. And same here is bodybuilding is also a sport, right? So if you want to excel in bodybuilding, then you might want to look at what the most optimal way of training is for you. Even there's a lot of variance. What's his name? Dave Cutler, right? He never went to failure ever, right? And he didn't, like, a lot of bodybuilders don't train with heavy weight. So it's not a necessity, but a lot of bodybuilders do train with heavy weight, right? Ronnie Coleman being the best example. So everybody is different. If you're seeing the gains, that's what matters. But some particular activities and particular sports are going to cause you to have more particular splits, like powerlifting and Olympic weightlifting, especially. Like, if you ever look at the like mesocycle for an Olympic powerlifter or an Olympic weightlifter, it's mad weird. It's like, why, dude? You're peaking for like an entire year, right? Or you're prepping for an entire year, and you do like competitions once every 2 years. So I don't know. You have to consult your coach and whoever specifically trains you for that specific sport. But as far as like general population muscle gain, then yeah, it doesn't matter what split you have as long as it works for you.
Definitely. So one of the next things was about like fad diets. I would say for me, I have like similar feelings. Like if it works for you and you enjoy it, then yeah, you can stick with it. But also, I'm also like, things like freaking keto just piss me off, dude. Because everybody gets so like infatuated with it, with like the first week, but it's all like water and muscle glycogen loss, or there's stuff like carnivore and stuff like that. So as an example, dude, freaking Tristan Lee, that man's was like 4 to 5% body fat year round, and he was stronger than most like adults. I'm not gonna say whether or not he wasn't using other things, but again, like certain like diets can work for people very, very well. But for me personally, like I need all my food groups so I feel okay.
Yeah, I would say as far as health is concerned, then you probably just want a well-balanced diet. And then if you are going to choose a diet that's removing something, then you definitely have to supplement for that, right? So like I myself am vegan, right? For those of you who don't know. So I don't get a lot of B12. So I have to have, luckily a lot of vegan products have B12 just like injected into them because they know that we're lacking. But I do have to supplement with B12, iron. I don't eat nearly enough leafy greens as I should. So iron is something that I need to supplement with. And it's the same for carnivore. You definitely have to supplement. Like you're not getting any micronutrients. So I will say that as long as you have your bases covered as far as your micronutrients and your health is concerned, then you can choose whatever diet is best for you. I know people that have succeeded on keto. Yes, the first week or so is water weight loss. But if you continue to lose weight after the first, water loss, phase, then it clearly works for you, right? And there is a satiating effect. There is an anxiety dampening effect, apparently, to keto diets as well. So there are benefits to it. It's not all that in a bag of chips. It's not going to magically make you shredded or jacked or whatever your goal is. But it is something that can be a good aid toward that.
Definitely. And I think as much as it can be annoying to have a bunch of fad diets, like I feel like because over time it's giving people structure, like that's why it can work so well. Because sometimes people just don't know, you know what I mean? They don't know how to eat. So to be able to like follow a certain style and stick with it, that can also help them a lot, just having that structure.
Yeah, I would say also be wary of anybody saying that their diet is the best, or if there's any ideology attached to their diet. So like, although I am vegan, I never push veganism on people. Like I don't recommend, I mean, when I first started, of course, we all go through that annoying phase, but I would say that it is not, that person is being driven by something other than your best interest. All right, they have some other ideological goal that they want to serve, whether that's veganism or being a carnivore. Like all the most of the carnivore diet people I've seen kind of are either doing it to say like screw the vegans, or they're saying it just to what's the word? Just be sensational, because it's weird to eat just meat all the time, right? That's why Liver King was so popular. Yeah. I don't know. Listen to the experts, right? And if somebody has your best interest in heart, they're going to explain to you the pros and the cons of whatever diet they're coaching,
Nice. All right. Swain says, is it keto that helps attack anxiety, or is it the structure of following it?
No, well, I mean, I'll say this is beyond my scope of practice, but it is, from what I understand, there's some pathway or mechanism from the ketone bodies that your body produces when you're on keto that dampen the anxiety. So what that is, I do not know. Everybody do your own research.
Hello. Clowns.
And Zach, you're ugly.
Alright, so the next what's it called? The next subject was compounds versus isolation training. There's a lot of people that say, like, if you're a beginner, for example, you should spend a lot of time doing isolation stuff so you can develop mind-muscle connection. Because if you don't always have mind-muscle connection, then you're not whatever going to develop properly. Then there's other people that say, like, frick that, like, it doesn't matter. Because if you're moving the weight, like, those muscle groups are still going to develop. This is a tough one for me. I'm kind of like in the middle because like yes, whatever, I did like my curls and like my tricep push downs and blah, blah, blah. But I didn't build a massive chest by doing chest flies or like cable flies. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I didn't develop mind muscle connection through flies either. It was through stuff like dips or like pause bench or if it comes to shoulders, you know what I mean, like overhead press, like that kind of stuff. That's how I started to develop the mind muscle connection. So I'm kind of like, I see where they're coming from, but I'm not like too hard one way or too hard the other.
Yeah, I would say as far as like practical uses for like isolation exercises, for me, I usually have my clients do compound exercises for almost everything. But isolation exercises are great as an accessory or a precursor to whatever compound lift we're going to do. So if I have somebody doing squats and they're not at all feeling their glutes whatsoever, right? It's all quads or it's all hamstrings, then I'm going to have them go and do some glute bridges, right? Go up to the top, pause, wait. And I'm like, give me a verbal cue when you feel your ass cheeks turn on, right? Yeah. And they're like, yeah, okay. I'm like, all right, go down and now do it again, right? And then we do that like 5 times. And then when we go and do the squat, and I'm like, all right, hips through, they're like, oh, I feel it, right? So it is a good tool to use, but I would say that it's not, I would say it's probably overrated when it comes to like individual exercise programs. Beyond that, I have a coworker who keeps hounding me because I like drill the mind muscle connection into my clients. And he's like, you know, that just because you feel a muscle doesn't mean that it's like optimally activated, and just because you don't feel it doesn't mean it's not. And I will say that that is probably true. Like sensation is still something that is not a full science, right? So there are other things you can do. Shout out to Renaissance Periodization because they talk about this, right? To make sure you're not getting junk volume. So the mind-muscle connection is one. Making sure that you're getting the pump when you're doing the exercise, right, is another one. And there are other cues. You don't need the mind-muscle connection. But I will say that where you drive your attention is definitely important for exercises. So when I have somebody do a Romanian deadlift and they're like, oh, I feel my lower back. I'm like, all right, when you are at the bottom of the Romanian deadlift, try to think about your hamstring stretching, right? And then 9 times out of 10, whenever they do that, they don't feel it in their back anymore, right? So working with your clients and figuring out how to guide the sensation of a certain exercise definitely is going to be helpful, at least in avoiding pain.
Most indubitably. Well, Swain says he's the best hugger you've ever seen. Clown. Imagining him just
just crushing somebody.
Exactly. All right, bye, Zach. Thanks for joining. Yeah, I think overall compounds are probably the way to go, because if you're covering a movement, it's going to cover most of the muscle groups. I feel like isolation stuff, yes, just like you're saying, mind-muscle connection is really good. But I only really program isolation stuff if there's like a lagging body part. So as an example, most people have big old front delts, but have just freaking sloping shoulders and no rear delts. So yes, I'm going to do like pull aparts or rear delt flies or something like that to help like kick on some muscle there. I'm trying to think what else. Hamstrings, everybody's always lagging. So definitely like hammy curls or RDLs. Again, RDL is a compound. I would probably do that. Yeah, I feel like you covered the rest of the stuff. So
yeah.
Next topic is fasted cardio. I personally think that it's overrated. That being said, I love fasted cardio because it helps me wake up. Like, I feel good after doing it. Helps me warm up, like move for the day. And then on top of that, if I don't do my cardio in the morning, I'm not doing it for the rest of the day. Like, it's just not going to happen, especially after I lift, you're wilding. So what are your thoughts on fasted cardio?
I would say it's at this moment in time, it is appropriately rated, because I don't know anybody that's still doing fasted cardio and is like, yeah, dude, it's the best, you know, the science backs up that you burn more fat. Like, I feel like that remains in the sphere of like people who do intermittent fasting and are just like fasting like weirdos. So I feel like most other people, if you're a general population or you're just a casual weightlifter or something, you're never like, oh, let me do some fasted cardio right now. You're like, no, that fucking, like, that sounds like it sucks. Like, I'm not going to do that, right? I'm going to do cardio when I feel like it. That being said, if you feel like doing it first thing in the morning before you eat anything, then go for that as well. Like, it's not going to have any kind of extra physiological benefit, but if it's going to give you a mental benefit, then I would say go for it.
Yeah, and like, I can definitely understand what people are saying by, let's say that like running is your primary form of exercise. You're gonna do a lot better if you're running after you're fed versus if you're fasted. Like, you're just, at least in my opinion, like, you're not gonna feel the same. But like, if lifting weights is your primary goal, and yeah, you're gonna want to separate it out, and then that's where it kind of like doesn't necessarily matter if it's like, okay, I'm gonna run if I'm fasted or if I'm fed for the day. Let me see what else. Last thing that I wanted to talk to you about was basically just like how your training has changed over the years. I feel like when we first started lifting, it was more just building muscle, like bodybuilding oriented. Then once we saw all these people who were smaller than us and now lifting us, we're like, all right, screw all that. I'm trying to get strong AF. But now it seems like not necessarily that you've lost love for lifting, but now your goals are more like athletic. Like, you want to be able to move well, you want to be able to outrun people, and you're doing like Muay Thai and mixed martial arts. So how has your training structure changed over the years?
Basically, sorry, got people rolling by. I would say that obviously in the first couple of years, it was mostly just like trying to figure it out, right? Everybody in high school is like, oh, I'm trying to get jacked. They just like go, and they don't, like, of course, we look to the internet, bodybuilding.com, old school YouTube, and things like that. But then all that information is given out by bodybuilders, right? So at the beginning, I feel like a lot of people are like, they're receiving fitness information from bodybuilders and then their friends, right? So not the best combination. So obviously I saw like newbie gains and whatnot. And then we lifted for wrestling as well. And that was definitely more athletic based. But still, nobody gave us quality information. They didn't tell us how to power clean. They were just like, go do it, right? It's like, all right, cool, I'll snap myself up. After that, I don't know. I feel like we started moving more into like heavy weightlifting. And then I did like my cat back 405 deadlift for the first time. And it was disgusting looking. And I basically just rocked with that for years and then didn't compete. And I think I got to a certain point, like up until currently, where I've gotten to a certain point where it's like I'm not competing in powerlifting. I'm basically just lifting heavy to lift heavy, and there's no reward at the end of it. And my hamstring hurts, and my back hurts, and my hip flexors hurt. So I'm just feeling all these aches and pains. No glory, no competition, no dopamine, no bitches. Like, it was just like a bad time. So I had to switch it up to the point where like I can see like consistent growth because I'm new at something, right? And also having that goal at the end of it, right? So I'm doing Muay Thai now, and I'm trying to get into mixed martial arts because I want to actually compete, because I think it'd be interesting and I think it'd be fun. And because I see this thing at the end of the tunnel that gives me joy and makes me excited, I'm like sprinting towards that rather than thinking, okay, like maybe I can add 5 more pounds on my deadlift this year, right? So I think that was my problem. I think eventually I'm going to get back into heavy weightlifting. It's just for the time being, I need a break.
So a really interesting topic that I've talked to a couple people about is, so a lot of people I find who are big into mixed martial arts, but not really big into lifting weights, are really big in saying, like, let's say, as an example, John Jones, right? They're like, oh, I don't know why he's lifting so much, because he's going to get so bulky and it's going to affect how he moves and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, in my opinion, unless this man's adding 20, 30 pounds to his frame, like it's really not going to affect how he moves. I
Yeah.
say that because, so when I was training in college, I did like a hybrid of like strength and aesthetics, but I was also doing mixed martial arts twice a week and boxing once a week. And I felt like lifting didn't necessarily affect my movement at all, even though I was getting bigger and adding some muscle to my frame. I feel like a lot of people, what's it called? Think that building muscle or like becoming more stiff is a lot easier than it is. But I wanted like your opinions on it because you have done bodybuilding, have done powerlifting, and now you're currently in mixed martial arts. So how would you say that like lifting and whatever affects like your movement?
I would say that it doesn't usually, right? Obviously there is a meeting point where you want to say like, okay, I don't want to get too big because it's going to affect my MMA or my fighting. And I don't want to underlift and then just be a scrawny guy. And then if somebody like, I don't know, because you can get out muscled even in grappling. Like people like to talk about like it's all skill. Like it is for the most part skill, but if somebody is stronger than you and you can't physically like move them around, then that's going to be a problem. So you need to do some weightlifting as well. That being said, if your main goal is mixed martial arts or any combat sports, and you are putting your all into that, whatever lifting you do on the side is going to yield you the best results, right? So just to illustrate it more, if you are trying to be optimal for bodybuilding, you're going to bodybuild X amount of times per week. You're going to weightlift X amount of times per week. You're not going to physically be able to do that if you do mixed martial arts as well. You will burn yourself out. Your body will tell you no, right? So I will say you have to fill your week up with the mixed martial arts, and then whatever time you have left over, focus on weightlifting and cardio, and then everything else will work itself out. Now, some people are freaks, and if they touch a barbell once a week, they're going to blow up, right? And those people, I think, because their body allows it and their genetics allow it, I don't think it's going to slow them down, right? They're built for it, literally. So, yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Yeah. What's good, Shibo? Something I saw the other day was Dave Tate on Elite FTS, and he was discussing like basically what you're saying, like specificity for the sport, but also like the weight room and how that transfers over to the training, right? So I kind of agree with his mindset where it's like, okay, the goal in the weight room is to get bigger, stronger, faster, and then the goal of like, let's say it's like a practice or whatever it's called, like you go to like a class or something like that. The goal of the class is to apply that. So it's like, okay, I squat, bench, deadlift, I'm mad strong. I can now use the power that I have from my squats for double leg takedowns. I can use the power I have from bench for like shrimping and pushing people away. So for me, like I kind of see it as like strength is strength, and then it's just up to you to like coordinate everything.
Yeah, that is true, because it's like strength is supposed to be general fitness, and again, you can apply it more to like powerlifting, right, if you wanted to, or strongman, but it's all about like where you direct those channels, right? So it's like, I guess, like weightlifting is like filling up your cup with water, and then, or filling up a pitcher with water, and then training mixed martial arts is like pouring the water into a cup, so it's like more concentrated. Because if you're weightlifting and it's affecting your MMA, that's a problem with your MMA training. It's not a problem with your weightlifting. Or that's not true either. You could be lifting too heavy and like snap yourself up or something like that, but there's definitely some incorrect training variables there. So yeah, I remember one time somebody came into the gym and they were a junior Olympian, right, in high school for fencing. And his mom was like, oh, I want you to train him. I want you to get him strong. So he's going to be in Budapest next week, and he has to be strong. And I'm like, all right. And I was freaking out because I was like, bro, I don't know how to train a fender. Like, this guy is elite, right? Like, you want me to train basically like an elite athlete? And then my boss at the time was like, you are not his fencing coach. You are his strength and conditioning coach. So it's your job to strengthen the muscles that you use mostly in fencing, is to train explosivity, and is to train like even reaction time, right? So those are all things that you can train as supplementary for the main training of mixed martial arts or whatever the sport is. So yeah, if you're at the point where weightlifting has overtaken your goal, then you've gone too far. I'll say that much.
Definitely. And even I kind of noticed like or backtracking a little bit, what you said before, like I noticed in high school, because it's like when I joined the wrestling team, I had no idea what I was doing, but I had been lifting, I think, for like two 2 years at that point. So it's like everybody in my weight class, like I look freaking diesel compared to them, and I could just outmuscle them. So all I was doing is just ragdolling people, pick them up, throw them down, because I had no idea whatever, but I could outmuscle people just like you're saying. So just I guess like to further the point, like I feel like it's just a matter of separating the two and using the weight room as your strength and conditioning, and using your practices, rehearsals, whatever classes. That's going to be where you apply everything, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And also, it's like if people say that too much muscle affects your fighting game, like why do people diet down then? Like why do people in combat sports weight cut to the point of being like almost dead just to rehydrate and then go into the fight? And so they're bigger than the other person and they're stronger than the other person. So like the muscle helps, right? It never detracts. Yeah. Anybody that says that is an idiot. Although I will say I don't know the specificities of like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I have heard like long, lanky people do better in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu because you can like sink in like chokes better and like submission. So I will say I don't know the specifics for that. But when it comes to mixed martial arts or even boxing, like you've seen some champion boxers that are massive.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Definitely. And what the frig is his name? The goofy lanky dude that beat the bronze bomber. What was his name? This is gonna bother me. Hang on, I got you.
Jack Dempsey?
Nah. Oh, Tyson Fury. Like, dude, like he's got a beer gut, the longest limbs in the world. Like he looks super goofy, but he's nice at boxing. So it's like, it's not always how jacked you are or how you look. It's just like how you apply everything.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there are some athletes that just defy logic at all, right? Like Butterbean, you know, like he's a big feller, but he punches hard, right? So there are just people that will defy your expectations regardless. So there's no hard and fast rules for any of this stuff. It's just like guidelines, and then beyond that, that's like, you know, that's you. That's whatever your style is, right? However your body is built. What's his name? Like, obviously, if you're taking your first boxing class, right, they're going to say, keep your hands up here, right? You want to keep your hands up. You want to keep guarded the whole time. But then if you look at Anderson Silva fight, his hands are down like the entire time. Yeah. And then if somebody, he like counterpunches really well. So it's like, you don't, like, it's not a rule that's written in stone, right? Everything is, you can tweak everything to what works best for you. That's it. That's the answer to all our questions, basically. It's just like, it depends.
Yeah. I was going to say from the jump, it depends. Something else I was kind of curious about, I don't know if you know a whole lot about it, but it's like something that I've noticed is if people have a lot of muscle on their frame, I feel like their gas tank is a little smaller. But I don't know if that's because whatever, the muscle needs more oxygen, or if it's just because they're heavier, so it's going to have them, because you know how like you burn more calories when you walk if you're heavier. I don't know if like that's freaking cohesive or whatever it's called, or it's like parallel with it.
I'll say that it's hard because you are going to gain the amount of glycogen that's proportional to the amount of muscle that you built, right? Because your muscles hold energy in them. So if you gain muscle, you should still have the same amount of gas tank, right? Unless you're taking something that is, extra physiological, so to speak, right? So if you're taking performance-enhancing drugs, then you're packing on more muscle than your body would naturally allow, right? And certain things do not grow at the same rate. For example, you have one lung capacity. Like you can aerobically train for a long time, but your lungs aren't going to get that much bigger. Now, if you start doing steroids, like your lungs are definitely not going to take in as much, like the amount of oxygen that your lungs is uptaking is not going to be proportional to the amount of muscle that you have, right? So in that case, yes, your gas tank is probably going to be smaller. But when it comes to just working naturally, I don't think it should really slow you down. But I don't know. I haven't looked that deeply into it. That's mostly intuition.
Yeah, I feel like that that kind of makes sense to me though, because it's like similar when it comes to like muscle strength and tendon strength. If you're on PEDs, obviously your muscle strength is going to develop a whole lot faster than your tendon strength, and that's why you see so many people snapping themselves up on IG. So I can definitely see what you're saying about like how it would affect the gas tank in that way.
Yeah.
I feel like that was all the topics that I wanted to talk to you about. Is there any other stuff you wanted to talk about?
Well, Aleem Ali just entered the chat. Do you have any MMA questions for your boy? Gang. Aleem, 1v1 me. See me in the ring. See me in the octagon.
Freaking spar.
Why not? I'm ready. I'm ready to bang.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think I have anything else to add. I feel like this was a lovely conversation.
Most indubitably. I appreciate you as always. I appreciate your time and you doing this IG Live. I think it was pretty dope.
No, word. I appreciate you inviting me, my friend. We got to do this again.
LOL. You see his response?
Oh my God. This man doesn't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to go eat some food now. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it. And I will see you next time.
Sounds good.
Yes.
All right, deuces, man.
Deuces. Thank you, everybody, for watching.
All right, see you guys.